For a 3-cylinder 1-litre engine, this really gets along really well. This is the Kia Rio GT Line, and it's not a hot hatch, more a warm one, but it's one of the most fun city cars on the market. The Rio shares a platform and many other bits and pieces with the Stonic compact SUV, and it looks pretty schmick with this GT body kit. There is just a touch of Volkswagen about the look of the Kia Rio, and that's probably due to the fact it was designed by Peter Schreier, who also designed the Audi TT amongst many other cars, but it's a really good looking design. I especially like the front tiger nose grille here, which has been completely blocked off. This car breathes entirely from below, and just next to that front grille, the cluster of 4 small LEDs that make up the fog lights. And once again, it's the wheels that are my favourite design element of a car. In this case, they're 17-inch two-toned alloys in a really classic design that I think actually really lifts the overall appearance of the car and makes it look a lot more sporty. The back of the Rio looks nice and tidy, maybe a little bit Hyundai-esque, dare I say, but there's not an awful lot to report going on here. Underneath the boot lid though, we have a 325-litre storage space, which if you drop the rear seats expands to just under 1,000 litres. In the engine bay sits a 1-litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine that outputs 74 kilowatts of power and 172 newton meters of torque. Fuel economy is very frugal, 5.3 litres per 100 kilometres. This is the exact same engine that you'll find in the Kia Picanto GT, although with the Rio GT line being just a bit bigger, the performance is dulled just a little bit, but it's still really good fun to drive. Power is delivered to the front wheels only via a 7-speed dual clutch transmission, and all of that makes the Rio GT Line a very fun car to drive. The interior is pretty much exactly the same as the Stonic, which means that unfortunately a lot of plastics died to make this interior, which is a shame because I really like Kia's design. It's just a shame that it all has to be done in this hard, scratchy plastic. The center console screen is 8 inches and it's fairly pared back in terms of the software that it runs, being that this is a budget car. However, it does come with wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, which is really simple to set up. You'll be up and running in no time at all when you first get into the Kia Rio. It has a 6-speaker sound system, which makes noise. It's not the best noise, but it works okay. Moving down the console, we've got the central locking button here next to the hazard lights button, which is one that I always forget where they put it. I'm frantically looking to unlock the doors to let my kids in, and it's there right in front of my nose the whole time. Single zone climate control works really well. It does a great job in cooling down this car really quickly. We've got a single USB output and a 12-volt outlet down here, and a nice little storage tray for your phone. A few blanked off buttons here in the center console, just to remind you of all the features that we don't get here in Australia in the Kia Rio. We've got the drive mode button and the parking sensor button in the middle there. A big old-fashioned automatic gear shifter with manual gear changing, just pushing it over to the right here when you're in drive. Big handbrake, a couple of cup holders, a fairly small center console bin. Up in front of the driver, we've got 2 big dials there for the speedo and the tachometer, with a small digital screen in between them showing you various bits of car information, including a digital speedo should you want one. I do. The steering wheel, pretty standard Kia unit with a flat bottom for this GT line model. It actually has a really nice feel to it, leather with stitching, and has all the regular buttons that you find in pretty much every other Kia. The Hyundai Kia group seem to be the only car makers that are actually sticking with actual physical keys to use in the ignition of some of their entry-level cars. For those playing along at home who might not know how to use one of these, you just slot it here into the ignition on the side of the steering column and turn. And the engine starts. Turn it off now. But curiously, just next to that over here on my right-hand side is a row of buttons, including the push button control for the idle stop start. Like a lot of new cars, the Rio will automatically switch itself off at traffic lights in order to save fuel. But why would you have that system as a push button and not the actual ignition as a push button? Surely they work the same way. It doesn't make sense. The seats here in the Rio GT line are the same as the Stonic GT line, and they're very nice fabric ones actually, with this little bit of white detailing up here on top. I actually quite like them. They're very comfortable. There's leather accents on the side here, and they hold you in quite well. Seating position within the car is actually really good. You're nice and low in the cabin. The bonnet does kind of drop away there a little bit at the front, so I can't really see the front of the car, but fortunately it's not very big. But visibility throughout the rest of the car is actually pretty good. And in the back of the Kia Rio, look at it, I didn't expect this to be big, and it's not, but it's not impossible. It's actually pretty good. I'm 190 centimeters tall behind my own seating position. Yeah, my knees are in the back of the seat in front of me, but there is a bit of an insert here so that there is a little bit of extra knee room, which is a nice little thoughtful touch. So on a short trip, this would be okay. Now there's no rear air vents, unfortunately, but it is a small car, so we could probably give that a pass. We don't have any USB. Oh, I take that back. There's one USB. I thought that was a 12-volt outlet. It just looks like one. One USB here in the back. Headroom, not too bad, just touching the ceiling there. And the seating position back here is actually pretty good. There's also no rear armrest either. So you could probably have 2 adults in here on a medium-sized trip. I wouldn't want to go on a long road trip in the back of this, but it's not too bad. Behind the wheel and the Rio GT Line is a lot of fun to drive. But for a 3-cylinder 1-litre engine, this really gets along really, really well. There is just a bit of turbo lag though, especially off at the lights. I've just put it into sport mode and put your foot down and nothing happens, and then suddenly we get this bit of a kick, and the engine makes a bit of noise, but it's not unpleasant. But annoyingly, every time you switch this car on, by default it starts in eco mode, which is fine, but it's just not the most engaging way to drive this car. So the air conditioning is working pretty well. It's a unseasonably warm spring day today, and the car's been sitting in the sun all morning, and it's actually managed to cool down quite quickly, which is nice. Going over a bit of rough road here, a lot of road work going on, and with its Australian tuned suspension, the Kia Rio is actually handling it all very well. It isn't coming unstuck at all. Plenty of power going uphill here, and it's fun on some of these twisty corners. Dynamically, this is really good. It's not quite hot hatch performance, but look, it's not far off it. This car, rear wheel drive with manual transmission, and you would have a hatch that everyone would want. Especially turbocharged front wheel drive hatches, you do feel like that, you know, you could lose the front end a little bit just because there's so much power going to the wheels and that you're going to kind of slide off the road, but there's none of that here at all. It actually feels really nicely balanced, and they've done a really good job on it. The other thing I want to add to my wish list for this car, being that we don't have manual transmission, paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Well, I'm cruising at 80 on the freeway right now, and I feel like this car still has a lot more that it could be doing. There's no lack of power. If I had to do an emergency overtake, it wouldn't be a problem. Oh, just a bit of turbo lag though when you put your foot down. We get a lot of noise and not much feeling, but then it suddenly kicks in. The 1-litre engine in this car is being asked to do a lot of work to keep things going. I mean, look, it's responsive and it moves quite quickly, but you can't help but think that a slightly larger engine, maybe a 1.3-litre 4-cylinder, would do a great job in this car. Just something a little bit bigger so it doesn't have to rev quite so harshly all the time just to get you going off the line. While the Rio is an affordable compact car, it doesn't miss out on any important safety features. In fact, it's pretty well stocked with autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, lane follow assist, and driver attention alert. Plus, it comes with Kia's 7-year warranty and capped price servicing. The Rio range starts at $20,490 for the entry-level S model and $25,990 for the GT line seen here. I think the Rio is definitely a city car at its best because you've got a good amount of performance so you can have a little bit of fun. It's practical, it darts in and out of traffic so easily, and it's just a really great little car.